Okay, example 2. If there's a difficult one of these for right now, it's one where the b value is odd instead of even, so it doesn't divide evenly. Let me show you how to handle this situation. First off, that's how the problem is written in my book. I'm going to transfer it to my paper by calling it x squared plus 5x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now let me just say this before I go any further. Factoring is always the quickest way to do these problems. If you want to try factoring first, and in this case the only way to make 3 is 3 times 1, right? 3 plus 1 doesn't make 5, so it doesn't factor. So we're going to get one of these square root answers. But if this was a 4 here, x plus 4, x plus 1, the answers are negative 1 and negative 4, you're done. Right? That's always faster. So if you want to try factoring first always, just give it a quick look. Can I factor this? No, I got to do it this new way. All right. So if I go ahead and move the 3 over, it's going to be x squared plus 5x equals negative 3. Again, leaving a gap right there. Now, here's what I do personally if I'm doing this on my paper myself by completing the square, and I got an odd number there for b. This number is odd. It's always plus. On this side, instead of writing 25/4, which is what 5/2 squared is, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to write parentheses 5/2 squared. So on this side, I'm actually going to write it down so I can look at it. I can see it. I can actually, with my eyes, see the actual number I'm trying to square. So I'm less likely to square it improperly. So 5 divided by 2 squared, that's what the magic number is every single time. And over here, I put the plus a little close here, but I'm going to put the plus right here. And then on this side, I'm actually going to square it out. 5 times 5 on top is 25. 2 times 2 on the bottom is 4. Do not make it a mixed number. Do not make it a decimal. I want an improper fraction right there every single time. Unless, I don't know, if that's 1x, that's 1/2, 1/2 squared is 1/4, then make it a proper fraction. I want a fraction there. I don't want a mixed number or a decimal there. Now, when there's a fraction here, in order to add these two things together, I need a common denominator. So what I do, again, this is on my paper, I multiply, this is over 1 right now, I multiply top and bottom by 4. So I change that denominator to what it needs to be, and then I just scribble this number out. So I have a common denominator over here. So when I go to add those together, they're already ready to add together. Just makes life easier. Okay. I didn't change the number. The number still equals negative 3. I just changed its form so I can now easily add these fractions. Now, the left-hand side we're supposed to factor, parentheses squared. Now, the reason I write it like this over here, the very next step is take the square root of that, take the square root of that. If I have a perfect square, I just have to take the squares off of them. So the very next step, I'm going to square root it anyway. So having it written as 25/4, just take the square root as 5/2. This is a little bit easier to look at. Take the square off, now it's 5/2. The sign in the middle term is plus, so a plus goes right there. Over on this side, 25 minus 12 makes 13 over 4. Never reduce that. It doesn't reduce, obviously, but if it should reduce, if it was 10/4, 10/4 is better than 5/2. All right? Reason why? The denominator is perfect square. Very next step, I got to square root things, right? So if the bottom's a perfect square, it's already going to have a nice perfect square root on the bottom. No radicals in the denominator, so we don't have to fix anything. So never ever reduce that. Okay. Square root of this side is x plus 5/2. Square root of this side is plus or minus, and it's just the square root of the top, which is 13, over the square root of the bottom, 2. So the top doesn't have an exact square root, it's going to stay under the radical, but the bottom does have a perfect square root, so go ahead and do it. And notice that the fraction bar is right here. The square root does not dip into the denominator, all on the numerator. Okay, so top didn't have an exact square root, the bottom did. Move the 5/2 over, it becomes negative, right? A lot of people mess up there. They don't change the sign when they move that across. Put it in front. And notice they have a common denominator. So I end up with x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. And I wouldn't like the answer written like that. One simple expression over the simple common denominator.